Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this very special episode of Nick from the Field. I'm driving to a place that I know very well. And I haven't been here since July of 1988. What is that? More than 30 years. The road is a lot better, but I would struggle with my Toyota Tercel to get in here. I would map. This is my field mapping area when I was a graduate student at Idaho State University in Pocatello. And we're about 2 hours to the north of Pocatello. And besides the good state of the road, I'm happy to report that this is pretty much exactly as I remember it more than 30 years ago. And I've always wanted to come back. I've always wanted to take the time to come back. And I just haven't. So here we are. This is the last mile or so as we drop into this little hot springs, this natural warm springs with some trees. Oh, yeah, I see it right up ahead. Wow. And my story is that I got set up here as a home base right up ahead. Oh man, this is coming back. Nice. And I didn't do any paperwork. I didn't get any permits. I mean, I didn't ask anybody. And this is, I think, at least 30 years ago, was a well-known little hot springs. And I just set up a tent. And I had this tent that I borrowed from the department at Idaho State University, an old big canvas tent that you could walk into, somehow obtained from the Bhagwan Rajneesh. You have to Google that one. Anyway, for 2 summers, this was my home base, and people would drive this road, I guess on weekends, and they would stop in at the warm springs to take a little dip, and here's this big tent setting up. And looking back on it, it was kind of selfish of me just to claim that spot without really sharing. But quite often, I'd have visitors come in and they would ask what I was doing, and I would explain that I was making a geologic map, mapping normal faults that cut the Heise Volcanic ignimbrites, ash flow tuffs. Oh man. Wow, this is more lush than I remember. Crossing into the Targhee National Forest. Yeah, I'd forgotten that. I guess I was officially camping on, or squatting on Forest Service land. Maybe that's why I thought it was okay to do. I remember there were some hummingbirds that hung out in here. Yeah, this is more like the road as I remember it. An old Toyota Tercel without much clearance. This was a bugger. I remember my dad came out, actually both my parents came out, and my dad was like, boy, I don't know, we're going to hit the bottom here. He was very worried about doing damage to the car, and I probably did. Oh my. This is it. This is home base. Boy, I would love it if nobody was here. That would just be sweet. Nobody's here. Wow. Thank you for playing along with my trip down memory lane. The story I have is not exactly a pleasant one. But I was halfway through my second summer, July of 1988. And I did my four nights in Pocatello and then kind of pulled back in here and pulled my Toyota Tercel right in here. And my tent was gone. And inside my tent was my card tables and my maps and my journals, my field notebooks, everything. Somebody just got tired of pulling in here, ready to enjoy this hot springs, and having this kid from the college camping here. So it was not a pleasant morning, but I scrambled around in these trees. So this is way more open than I remember. So this is obviously a very used campground or campsite. This was all real brushy. And anyway, these guys, I assume guys that stole my stuff, they at least went through the tent enough to find my notebook and just tossed it in these bushes. So I found this yellow notebook. I'll show it to you in a second. But otherwise, this is where I spent my nights. And I would, it's warm water, so there's a little warm springs here. So I would sit in here for the end of each night. Oh yeah, it smells exactly like it used to smell. Boy, this is a serious place now. I'd have my Pop-Tarts and my Paul Link spent a couple nights here, Dave Rogers, my former advisors, Falma Moy. Check the temperature here. Oh yeah. Maybe not as warm as I remember it, but that little spot right there was the place to sit. And my maps did go away, and I never found them. But before I left, I think I was on the verge of tears, actually. I was like almost sobbing. So I'm like, as I left, right before I left, I went over here, I remember, for some reason, and I just started looking in these bushes. And I saw something yellow, like right in there. And I had to like wade in there and get this yellow thing. And they had taken my field notebook and just tossed it in the bush. And I've since used it for another trip, but I still have the dates. Oh yeah, here's, okay, campus box, right, there's my address. And here's the first day of field work, July 4th, 1987. There's no GPS coordinates, man. We're using the sections and the township and range. That's how old I am. So I want to show you some of these tuffs. The tuff of Blacktail, for instance, or the tuff of Blue Creek. I really haven't seen those rocks in a long time. And, you know, typical field notebook. But at least I have this from that experience. And I remember people saying, God, you really just leave your stuff out there? I'm like, oh yeah, you know, not that many people are on that road. Well, it was probably dumb to leave all my stuff out here for like 4 days in a row. Lesson learned. So let's go over to a little part of the field mapping area and see if I can show you a few of these rocks that I became very familiar with. Thanks for joining us. Okay, well, let's see if I can remember what these rocks are all about. This looks like a pretty spot. Early September, still got some beautiful looking plants. Now this is a limestone, not the main focus of the field project. And I've got the thesis that I published in my backpack, so we'll crack that thing open. But let's go up and just look at the inside of some of this limestone. I don't remember much. I think it's Miocene limestone. Medicine Lodge? No, I don't. Yeah. I remember being confused by this stuff. Like, I was from Wisconsin, so I knew about limestones, but I didn't see any fossils in this stuff. And as I read about it, I realized it was freshwater limestone, travertine. I'm like, what? I don't think I still understand travertine, if that's really what this is. Let me find the... Yeah. All right, let's find a good sitting rock. Break out the old thesis. Boy, did I imagine when I wrote the thesis that I would be back, first of all. Probably, I'm kind of a nostalgic dude. Did I imagine that I would be video recording? No. Did I imagine there'd be a bunch of people watching the video as opposed to some sort... This is more of a home movie, isn't it? This is like, this is where I used to work and cut my teeth as a young man, you know, learned the value of hard work, so listen up, kids. We've all heard that guy. We don't need that. All right, let's... oh, very pleasant. Very pleasant place to sit. So my goal with the project was to map normal faults. And to map faults, you have to make a map of the bedrock layers. And if these layers of limestone continue for a square mile, and then they suddenly stop, and then you're abruptly into a different kind of a bedrock, that's a potential fault. Putting, let's say, younger ash flow tuff in direct contact with this stuff. So, can he do it? Open your hymnal, please. I'll read you a little bit of the abstract first of all. A northeast striking normal fault set is present along the margins of the eastern Snake River Plain in eastern Idaho. The southern Beaverhead Mountains detailed field mapping In the southern Beaverhead Mountains, detailed field mapping has identified northeast striking normal faults with steep dips, both to the southeast towards the plain and to the northwest away from the plain. Dip-slip offset of these faults is minor, resulting in minor northwest-southeast extension of the crust. The faulting occurred between 4.3 and about 2 million years ago and was coeval with the movement on the northwest striking basin and range normal faults. Okay. Basically, I didn't find much. So we are here at Lidy Hot Springs, and I'm heading to Pocatello to hang out with my sister-in-law in a few hours. We're going to Buddy's Italian restaurant tonight. Excited. Now let me find a strat column. Oh, here's the... So the reason I was here is that... Come on, Gizmo. Is because there are some buried supervolcano calderas. Come on, Gizmo. What are we doing? Let's zoom out. So the BC is Blacktail Caldera, BCC is the Blue Creek Caldera, and the KC is the Kilgore Caldera. And at least 30 years ago, those were the ages. 6 million years, 6.5 million years, 4.3 million years. And you're like, wow, I don't remember seeing those supervolcano calderas. Yeah, you didn't, because basalts younger than those have completely buried those guys. So they are buried calderas, as opposed to at least the most recent Yellowstone caldera, smaller by the way, still visible. So I was here on the southern tip of the Beaver Heads looking at the explosive ash flow tuffs, or ignimbrites, from those three calderas. Even though the calderas themselves are unavailable to us physically, I was making maps of the explosive material to then work out the timing of the faulting. Okay, come on. I need a strat column. Here we go. Yeah. So this limestone, that's quite handsome, wouldn't you say? Like this is good. A good scene here in the Beaver Heads. In my thesis, it's quite thick, almost 150 meters thick. Miocene ? Medicine Lodge Formation. So has anybody been really studying this Medicine Lodge Formation since 1989 when I wrote the thesis? I'm not sure. And again, I was interested in the three tuffs mainly. Each of them an explosive ash flow tuff. Do I have something on the limestone since we're sitting here though? I must have written something. Yeah. Miocene limestone. The Medicine Lodge beds include tuffaceous lacustrine mudstone, so basically lake mud. There's some tuff, there's some travertine and gravel. Massive light gray freshwater ledge forming travertine. Yeah, the fresh water I still don't understand. Okay. Yeah. So this is a spot to see the kind of underlying unimportant bedrock for the project. Let's go back to the south along the main road and try to find and retrace my steps basically and try to find a couple places that have good exposure of those three tuffs. This land is your land, this land is my land, California. Okay, Gizmo's not cooperating. The idea is we're going to try to go to that exposure there, and possibly, if we're feeling spunky, up to the other guy. And those are two ash tufts. And I can't remember which is which. I got my map out of the back of my thesis. This is what the map looks like in its entirety. Okay, so there's three cross sections. And here's what the map looks like. Each of these is a normal fault. You can see there's a little symbol here we have for normal fault. So the little tick mark and ball is the side that dropped down. And so there's intersecting normal faults. This is a cross-section line, A to A prime, which is the same as this, A to A prime. So this is looking down into the earth. And so I have, based on the geology at the surface, Kilgore, Blue Creek, and Blacktail. Those were the three tufts. Tuft of Kilgore, tuft of Blue Creek, tuft of Blacktail. So my hope was that I'd get the map out. I would look carefully at this work of art. Ha ha. I mean, each of these is a square mile, a section, in other words. So I covered a lot of ground on foot with no more equipment than I have now. Actually, less equipment than I have now. But my kind of disappointment is here's the main road and here's the paved road down here. I'd forgotten that my mapping area, for some reason, I cut it off right here. So maybe it's tuft of Blue Creek. Oh no, but that says there's some of the limestone. Oh, is that limestone? What? Is that limestone? We've already seen limestone. Well, let's go over there and bang on it. If it's limestone, then we'll go up high. I have to show you the details of an ash flow tuft before we leave. All right, well, Gizmo's on my bad list. I don't know what's going on. He keeps drooping on me. So, handheld time, but this sure doesn't look like limestone to me, so I'm excited to break off some of this stuff for you. I think this is the tuft of Blue Creek. Don't hold me to it, but let me give you a good sense of cracking open a rhyolitic ash flow tuft and how that might help us. Even back in central Washington, when looking for more rhyolites in the Teanaway and up at Blewett Pass area. Well, these are not limestones, and it's like I have never left. Just seeing this tuft unit brings it all back. So you're looking at a volcanic tuft, and these are little crystals of quartz. But the concept that we want is that this is not a lava flow. This is rhyolite, but you're like, well, that doesn't look like rhyolite. Well, I agree. It doesn't look like pink rhyolite that we have in central Washington. But these deposits are the result of a huge supervolcano explosion, caldera-forming thing, back there in the middle of the Snake River Plain, right over there. And then here comes this hot, traveling cloud of ash, gas, rock, just basically hugging the ground and flowing as this kind of whirling dervish type thing. An ash flow an ash flow, or a gas-charged cloud, pyroclastic flow, maybe that's the best term that most people know. And then eventually that pyroclastic flow runs out of energy. And it's still so hot that as it sits here, finally coming to rest, it welds. It forms this very difficult to break open welded tuff. I think this is the tuff of Blue Creek. There's kind of a bluish tint here, but I'm not totally sure of that. And my map is not helping me locate myself. So let me grab my hammer and break open a little bit of this welded tuff for you and see if we can see any more details inside. Ooh. Come on, little baby. Come on, little baby. All right, well, can we see some sparkles? All right, well, I think my question here, when looking at these for the first time in 30 years, is how can we tell this is a welded tuff? Like, why wouldn't this just be some rhyolite that we would look at, or even some andesite if we just looked at it in a vacuum somewhere? Well, it's quite difficult. Now, I know that within some of this, I'm not saying that's what we're looking at right now, but in some of this, there's some actual pumice, some flattened pumice. And if you get closer to the base of this section, you can get a real glassy vitrophere, which is a basal unit. So quite often, if you really get a chance to look at a volcanic ash flow tuff from bottom to top, the bottom is the hottest. All this stuff's coming to rest, and so it's truly like almost obsidian-looking stuff at the very base. And then as you work your way up, it gets less and less glassy, and like this stuff. And then eventually you get, if you're truly to the top of an exposure of one pyroclastic flow, one ash flow tuff, it's frothy. Like, I'm thinking of the Bishop Tuff in the Owens Valley of California as being a famous example of this. You go into Owens River Gorge, and you can drive that road or walk that road and go from bottom to top. But in this case, I remember seeing the glassy vitrophere at the base. I don't remember seeing the truly frothy, pumicey stuff at the top. Magpie, hello. It's been a while. Do you remember me? Oh, I'm pretty sure I sat right here long ago, writing in my little journal. I think this is the same stuff. Hello, lizard. Do you remember me? offhand, no big deal. Yeah. Same. One of the tufts. You know, I love the blacktail. I love the blacktail tuff. I'm trying to find it. It's maroon. It's got orange pumice clasts in it. I'm just not going to have enough time to find it. I saw this reddish patina up here and I thought maybe that was it. But it's the same stuff, which I think is tuff of Blue Creek, maybe tuff of Kilgore. Can't remember. Who knows how many folks have been out here since my report. The answer might be 0. I don't know who owns the land. Oh, now that's interesting. Hang on. So there's a certain look in the foreground, and then is it possible for you to see that there's a color change between here and here, just from this distance? And so oftentimes there would be a normal fault right there, taking a, let's say, a bluish tuff and juxtaposing it directly next to an orangish tuff, which should not be the case. That's the kind of detail that I was dealing with. Oh, smoke's kind of going away for now. You're looking south to Pocatello, man. 2-hour drive over a billiard table. Sure wish Gizmo could work so I could do a little bit more scrambling and filming, but this handheld thing is just not the same. You know, out here, one late afternoon turning into evening, I saw my one and only mountain lion. And the mountain lion was up on top here, just racing, just running at incredible speed. Big, big cat. Cougar, in other words. And, you know, I had no experience, no knowledge, barely dealt with rattlesnakes in a reasonable way. But that was an experience, I'll tell you that. So I guess I'll try one more thing here, and that is that here are well-mapped, well-defined ash flow tuff units. Plus, nearby, even though the caldera is not visible, we have good geophysical evidence that these amazing supervolcano calderas, yes, related to the Yellowstone hotspot. I mean, come on, Yellowstone used to be right here. 4 million years ago, the Heise Volcanic Field tells us that a Yellowstone-like dome with geysers and everything else was here. You're looking southeast. And since that time, the Yellowstone hotspot has continued to the northeast up to its present location. I mean, Wyoming is not that far away off that horizon. Was it really the hotspot that moved? You know the answer to that. It wasn't the hotspot. It was North America moving to the southwest. But my point here is that we have a known caldera, and right next door, some thick ash flow tuffs, not just one, but 3 separate units. These are the ones that I was mapping. What do you do if you're in central Washington and all you can find are the tuffs? And you don't have a plain or a buried caldera. Mainly because this whole story is 4 million years old. And how old was the Teanaway story? If there really is a caldera up there, that's right, 49, not 4, 49. I'll finish with a little story. You remember how I got help from some of you viewers about family history, and many of you are really good with searching for things online? Well, when I got set up to start doing this field work in June of 1987, somehow I was told, hey, don't go over to the Sullivan Ranch. And they're right up the road there. There's only just a couple ranches in this whole area. Don't go into the Sullivan Ranch. I don't think you'll be too warmly received. I'm like, oh, okay, why not? Why would they be that way? He said, well, things are still trying to die down. There was some sort of gunfight. This is 1987. This is not 1887. I can't remember who was even telling me this. They're like, there was some gunfight between the sheriff and the Sullivan boys out on the front porch of their house. And I think somebody got killed. And, you know, this is before the internet, so I had no way to really easily find that information. So, Sullivan, gunfight, sheriff, Lidy Hot Springs, 1986, 1987. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun just to find that. And I never did talk to the Sullivan family, and for all I know, they are wonderful people. But that's the story that I remember. And it'd be fun to read more about it. Well, I'm running out of time. I'm getting hungry. I'm about to head to Pocatello. Gizmo's not working. I can't find another tough unit besides this one here, so I'm going to call it a day. But I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane for myself. It's a little bit self-serving, but maybe the scenery alone for this part of North America makes you want to come out here and enjoy. And yeah, Craters of the Moon is 2 hours away. Thank you, I love you, and goodbye.